Peace. Yeah. See if it'll fill up a little bit before I go in. If not, I'm just gonna go in and we'll do it like a little small bill. See if the chat fill up a little bit. Excuse me, family. I know it's late when I'm trying to get my audio equipment together. Peace to Brother Gullah Juice, Brother Bayasa, Decent Tabo. Appreciate you all coming through. If the sound good, peace, Chauncey Moore. Peace, Majestic. Everything going good. Peace, Sister Satiwa. I'm good. Just let me know, and then I'll begin. It's gonna be a quick one. I meant to go earlier, but I had some scheduling conflicts. How do I sound? Brother Eric Ishmael, peace. Audio is Gucci, bet. So, previously in past shows on different channels, there's been a discussion about Portuguese interaction in West Africa and the timeline in which they began their exploration into the coast of West Africa. So I just wanted to provide I had a couple things in the chamber that I was going to release beforehand just on the community page, but I figured, hey, why don't I just go ahead and go live with it since I'm up. So I'm going to share my chat, but first I'm going to build on, there's an article that if you want it, please subscribe to the MBK Discord. I'm going to put the link to the article on the Discord server for those who want to read it. But it's by an author by the name of James Sweet, and it's called The Iberian Roots of America's Racist Thought. And in it, he tries to outline the beginnings of this idea of African inferiority and how it was used via the church or a normal fundamental law to inhibit the abilities of African Americans, not only just in this country, but the diaspora. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And if you haven't yet, please like, share, subscribe. Let me see. I think that's what I want to show. Everybody should be able to see my screen, but let me make it a little bit bigger. That should be a little clear for everyone. But again, this is the Iberian Roots of America's Racist Thought, and the author is James Sweet, and the source is the William and Marilee Quarterly, 1997. So in it, I mean, he discusses Muslim antidotes and their meaning, how they kind of use the Hamitic hypothesis to substantiate their points. And I don't really want to get into that part of it. I just want to kind of get into, again, the Portuguese interaction, not necessarily what's between the pages of anyone's religious text. So let's scroll down. And this is a neat one because he kind of had the sources at the bottom of the page, so it's kind of easier to, where we at with it? We're almost there. All right, I'm gonna kind of start here, and then I'm gonna move over, and I'm gonna provide the links to the other sources. I'm not gonna kind of search for y'all because it's got to be kind of a quick one. So the justification for slavery. When the first Black slaves arrived directly from the sea from Africa, landed on Portuguese soil in the 1440s. The Portuguese were placed in an unusual position, having to justify the enslavement of pagan captives. Earlier, any Muslim the Portuguese seas were subject to bondage. The war was against Islam was a holy war. Hence, more justification for the enslavement was unnecessary. All persons captured in a just war were consigned to servitude. While the Portuguese intellects agreed the right authority existed to conduct war against the nations that impeded the spread of Catholicism, they treated Africans' case differently. And despite African submission to the Portuguese missionary efforts, the Portuguese still considered the capture and subsequent enslavement of Africans as a part of a just war and converted heathens. Africans' willingness to accept Christian faith had no bearing on the Portuguese decision to seize them as human property. Papal approval reinforces this contradiction. So, and we about to get into the papal bulls here. Let's see if I got anybody. Mr. Morpheus, peace. Valentino Icon, peace. If you haven't yet, please. Robert Senior, peace. If you haven't yet, please like and share the show. Several papal bulls issued between 1452 and 1456 confirm the justice of enslaving Black Africans. Nicholas IV stemmed the verses, granted the King Don Alfonso V the authority to subjugate Saracens, pagans, and all other enemies of Christianity. Don Alfonso was permitted to claim all lands and property for Portugal in the name of God, and the inhabitants of the pagan lands were subject to perpetual servitude. Pope Nicholas V extended Portugal's sphere of influence to include all territories from Morocco to the Indies with the Romanus Pontifex. And those are two of the biggest papal bulls, along with the Antikythera, or the Doctrine of Discovery, that was used to support those Africans. And again, when the Portuguese came there, they didn't find anyone practicing Catholicism or any forms of it. They was on missionaries to convert those Africans. They didn't mention anyone else there outside of these Africans here. So you would think if they were there, we would see them in the text. So let's continue. In practice, the church tolerated the enslavement of Blacks regardless of their religious beliefs. And neither the church nor Christian rules were concerned with ensuring the Africans received sacraments. Despite some success in converting Congolese royal court in the 1490s, we spoke about King Jael I, who converted. I think his name was previous was Nzinga Nkubu, 1491-ish, converted. It was baptism, and ultimately his son Alfonso I is the one that kind of turned Congo into a Christian empire. But again, this is just, in my opinion, for more political, domestic, and economic advantages. In addition, the dead bodies of African slaves were discarded without Christian burial. And I have a source for that. Let me see if y'all can see the screen. Here we have discarded in the trash burials of African enslaved individuals via de Garfield, Lagos, Portugal, 15th, 17th centuries. Let me see. I'll make that a little bit larger as well so you can see. Abstract. In 2009, the excavation carried out in Valle de Garfaria, Lagos, Portugal, allowed the recovery of skeletal remains of 154 individuals buried in a dump used during the 15th to the 17th centuries. The archaeological context of the finding, the presence of African items associated with the skeletons, morphology, and the presence of intentionally modified teeth suggest that these individuals were African enslaved individuals. So we don't have to answer the question of how or who went or did they go. Their remains are there, and it can be studied. The aim of this work is to analyze how these men, women, and children were inhumed according to their sex and age. Let's see. Regarding the orientation and burial care, no differences were found between the sexes. Pieces of evidence have been were found to 4 females, 1 male, and 1 non-adult individual. And another thing that this article takes light to is how their remains were just left there. And I think I should be able to perfectly open. And this is the article. This is the actual study with the picture. Let me get up to the top. Discarded like trash. Let's see, let me get down to the introduction. Hopefully everybody can see. Portuguese maritime expansion in the first half of the 15th century, mainly under the sponsorship of Prince Henrique the Navigator. In 1444, the Portuguese ships reached Senegal, diverting the Sahara trade routes. During Prince Henrique's life, the harbor of Lagos was the place of departure of ships traveling to Africa. These vessels arrived in Lagos City loaded with goods, including enslaved individuals of sub-Saharan origin. Let's see, because this is kind of matching what we're saying. I wanted to get to the result. Oh, here's also the chart showing you judged by their age and whether or not their body was cared for. And there's another aspect of this article where you see on the side without care, meaning their bodies were just thrown in holes with other goods or undesirable goods, I would say. I mean, it's a long list of all those 158 individuals. And it'll even give you the pictures. Individual 84, buried without care. Here's another one. You kind of see her hands are tied behind her back. She just thrown in a hole. I don't know. It's not gonna let me blow it up. But hopefully you all can see it. Hopefully you all can see it. And this link I'm gonna put in the chat for you is where we're gonna go to next. It's kind of a dope source. I like it because it includes the primary sources, particularly the imagery in it. So let's go. Where we at with it? Here. And this is African Patches and Low Country Adaptations. If you all have been seeing the MBK community page, I've been kind of taking excerpts from this repository and putting it on the page for everybody to see. But mainly it breaks down, it's actually two separate articles. One breaks down the expansion of the slave trade by the Portuguese and Spanish. And also, because I was just studying Carolina history, it speaks about Africans in Carolina and how those slave routes and men like Henry Lawrence in South Carolina were importing Africans directly from the west coast of Africa, to include Senegal and especially an Angolian preference. So let's kind of get into this article here. Contrasting the beginning of slavery. And we're going to start with a point where everyone likes to talk about it, which is the 1619. So we're going to build on that for a little bit. Make that bigger for everyone. English North America. And then let me show y'all here the source. Landing of Negroes at Jamestown from the Dutchman of War, 1619. This is actually from Harper's Weekly and Library of Congress. You can download it and have it for yourself. Although Africans arrived in North America with Spanish explorers in the 16th century, the earliest documented evidence of Africans in English North American colonies dates to 1619. In an account from this year, crew members from a Dutch ship traveled approximately 20 enslaved Africans to settlers in Jamestown, Virginia. The crew consisted of privateers who had pilfered these captives from a Spanish ship. Privateering conflicts in the early Atlantic were a very regular occurrence between English rivals in the 17th century. Before English and later U.S. traders established a direct trade relationships on the West African coast, many colonists in North America accessed the transatlantic slave trade through privateering. We'll speak on privateering at a different time. By acquiring enslaved Africans and Armenians in English colonies in the Caribbean. And we see those cultures that begin to be established, like those African Creole cultures, where I don't like. I'm more of like an Afro-Atlantic culture. Whenever I decide to put something together, that's definitely going to be the word that I choose to go with. Let's speak a little bit. They have a column here about French Louisiana and Spanish Florida. In contrast to the southeastern North American colonies, such as Virginia and Carolina, settlers in French Louisiana in the late 17th and early 18th centuries initially focused on trading with American Indians and searching for mineral deposits rather than developing plantations. Through French Louisiana, settlers attempted to develop tobacco and indigo plantations in the 1720s and alliance with Aztec American Indians and escaped Africans. So clearly this article is identifying two separate groups. And if you have time, family, open up a tab and look up the Natchez Rebellion. And you'll see the parties who participated in that. The Natchez Rebellion did not end slavery in this region, but it allowed for more fluid legal definitions and experiences of race, slavery, and social status found in regions without a dominant plantation economy. In Louisiana, sugar plantations were not effectively developed until the end of the 18th century, when the Haitian Revolution ended Santo Domingo's dominance over the sugar trade in the Caribbean. And here's a picture here, family. Watercolor painting of Southeastern American Indians and an African child. That's 1735. So that's another source for those who tend to disagree. So now let's get into some Spanish Florida. Spanish Florida first settled in 1513. Settlers purchased enslaved Africans for various forms of labor. But scholars argue that slavery in this context proved less restrictive. As military tactic, the Spanish ordered freedom to slaves who escaped their English rivals. similar to what the British did to the colonists via Lord Dunmore Proclamation to allow those Africans in bondage or free who decided to liberate themselves could go fight underneath the crown and be loyalists. And those enslaved Africans were given their freedom because of their service to the crown. So, and here's a picture of Fort Mose. And that's another tab, family, that you can click on. Fort Mose Historical Park. You can see that. I can read it for you. Former site of Fort Mose Historical Park. Escaped slaves from Carolina and Georgia were recognized as free in Spanish Florida, a military tactic used by Spanish to destabilize the English plantation economy. Who were the workers on these plantations? Africans. And you have Spain, Catholics in Florida, French in Canada, those slaves leaving South Carolina before Georgia was established would make their way with the Indians and ultimately with Spain and South Carolina. Free Africans were often taken into Spanish militia at sites such as Garcia, Real de Santa Teresa de Mose. Hope I got all that out. Fort North or St. Augustine in Florida. And if you go back to the NBK videos, I actually did a presentation on Francisco Menendez, who was the captain who led a few of these men in skirmishes against John Oglethorpe, who was one of the founders of Georgia. So I want to say I threw that one in the chat for you, but let me get to, let me see where I'm at with it. This is some other stuff here. It's a good arc. I'm gonna throw this in the chat for you as well. This is an early map of Cape Verde, 1589. And also an early map of Amina, which will become Elmina Castle in present-day Ghana. So let's see. Let's go back to, remember originally we were talking about these paper bulls. With Portugal's expansion into Western Africa in the 15th century, Iberian merchants began to recognize the economic potential of large-scale slave trafficking enterprise. One of the first to record this sentiment, according to the Portuguese royal chronicler Gomes Inez de Zueria. That's another tab, family. Chronicles of Zueria. He was a chronicler for, the crown, who sailed to West Africa in 1441, hoping to acquire sealskins and oil. After obtaining his cargo, Goncalves called a meet with 21 sailors who accompanied him and unveiled his plan to increase their profits. So they were going to run up on the coast of West Africa and to begin to tell a short story and began taking bodies. I appreciate that, brother. Decent Tyler for the super chat. And thanks to all of those who have given to the channel in the previous videos we've done. If you haven't yet, please family like, share, and subscribe. 15th century Iberian legal traditions regulated Christian treatment of Jews, Muslims, and other Christians, clearly delineating, for example, who was enslavable and who was not. In contrast, the judicial status of people who did not fit in these categories was more ambiguous. Legal and philosophical arguments to address this issue began to evolve during the second half of the 15th century. Once Portuguese mariners began to return to Iberia with captives acquired in West Africa and West Central Africa, notably the treatment of Black Gentiles, was addressed in 1452 and 1455 when Pope Nicholas issued a series of papal bulls that granted Portugal the right to enslave sub-Saharan Africans. It reads, to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, subdue all Saracens and pagans whatsoever, to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery. And there's a document right there, family, for you. That's 8 January 1455. And that's the translation for you there. The link's in the chat. Peace, brother Khalil. Oh man, I mean, this is great information on here, yo. Let's see, there's another joint I wanted to show you. I want to show you the actual, I think I found it. Okay, remember earlier when we talked about 1619, but for the English, yeah, that's a great starting point, but let's talk about, we forget about Spain and Portugal. When we consider Spain and Portugal, we blow 1619 out the water. So, and it be described here. A letter from Spanish monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella to Ovando allowing black slaves of African descent to be imported into Hispaniola, Dominican Republic, and Haiti. There you go, family. That's for you to, decipher and all that on your own. They help you with the translations at the bottom of the page to assist. But a very important aspect of this document is it talks about not allowing those Saracens and pagans, Muslims, and Protestants to interact with the Indians. It says it here. The Spanish monarchs reasoned that the recent converts, heretics, and people of other religions would harm American Indians' conversion to Catholicism. However, they permitted slaves of sub-Saharan African descent, provided they were born in Spain. We just spoke about this a few videos ago. That initially those slaves coming from those enslaved Africans coming with the with Spanish were Christians first. So that the idea that they didn't have some type of interaction with Catholicism before they got here, even with the Congo's conversion in the beginning of the 1500s. Nicholas Ovando was the first political leader to oversee the transatlantic slave trade in the Americas when he imported black slaves from Spain to the island of Hispaniola. Ovando was the third governor of the Indies at the Spanish document, typically referring to Spanish American colonies after Christopher Columbus assumed the post in 1502. Man, let me see. This is one. Is this the other one I'm going to show? Oh, yeah. Hold up. Please, fam, if you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe. Make sure. This is the one. This is the charter that's specifically given by Charles IV to begin to transport slaves. Charter granted by Emperor Charles IV to Lorenzo de Gavardi for permission to transport slaves, Spain, August 18, 1518. The slave trade was highly regulated and consisted mostly of slaves being sent from Spain to the Americas directly by the Spanish government. However, Emperor Charles V opened the transatlantic slave trade on a massive scale in 1518 when he granted a charter to Lorenzo, giving him permission to transport 4,000 slaves directly from Africa to his Spanish-American colonies. That's Florida, Dominican Republic, Haiti, as described. So this is before 1619. You have the African begin to experience the Western Hemisphere. This is dope right here. Let me start sharing my screen. Priest Brother Rod Rand. And you have that, to speak on the brother Khalil's point, you have the silent war against Protestants and Catholics. Spain was what? Catholics. So you see them fighting against the English and that asiento, which later on I'm gonna build about the Treaty of Urtic that allow the asiento. Let me show y'all the importance of this asiento. Hold on real quick. Nah, man, I'm gonna show y'all this real quick because I'm about to get up out of here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let me see. Excuse the delay. And this license that Spain would give out, called the Asiento, gave exclusive license to whether it was a privateer or ultimately the British after the War of Spanish Succession, allowed them to be exclusive traders of enslaved Africans. The Asiento short-term loan or debt contract for 1 to 4 years signed by the Spanish crown and a banker or a small group of bankers against the future crown revenues. And this was pretty, and this, let me show you here. This is, you can see, and this is the legitimate Asiento, a contract that was signed after that Spanish War of Secession to the British that gave. Now, this is when you see the British start coming into the game, when they start taking over. Again, we got to remember they were kind of late to the party. Spain, Portugal, and the Dutch were kind of in there early. So it's important. 1619 is important, of course, but we were here before that. We started our trek here in the Mayalfa earlier than that date. So Peace, you're doing another great. Oh, appreciate that, Robert Ryan. Start sharing my screen, yo. And again, I'm putting all the links to the joints I showed today on the Discord. I don't have the joint on me right now, but hold on, let me see. Bear with me, folks. I'm gonna see if I can find it for you. It's all links. Let me see. Oh man, I don't even know if I know how to join people. Oh, invite. I found it. Hold on, family. It's coming. Bear with me. While you waiting on me, please like, share, subscribe to the show. Hit the little bell so you'll be aware when we go live like this. I'm putting the link to the Discord right now. On a few book recommendation tabs in there. Anyone can get it placed. If you got something you want to get off your chest, you got some information you done found, and you're looking for some other, Negro nerds to kind of build on it with you, they're your opportunity to do it. So again, family, I appreciate the 33 who came through. Please like, share the show. I'm gonna say it one more time. I don't see any. I want to say the first free settlement was St. Augustine, but I'll get back with you on the Jamestown, brother Khalil. I'm about to go research that one. Again, family, I'm out. Peace.